This office from this corner affords you a view of, I believe, the most significant landmarks in Utah. So you have the state capitol building, the church office building, the Angel Moroni on the Salt Lake Temple, the reflecting pool, World Trade Center. You can see the University of Utah, the U, up on the mountain. Then as you look westward, you have the Salt Palace, the Jazz Arena, the airport, and you can see all the way out to Silicon Slopes. You can see all the way out to essentially Lehigh from this location, and the Rio Tinto Kennecott copper mine. But really, you don't even have to move your feet from this corner, and you can really see, I think, some of the most significant places in Utah that really define not only economic development, but really our culture and public-private partnership.
Hi, this is David Pastana, owner of Rise Utah Realty in Orem. I want to share with you why I love Utah County. Join me as we explore the restaurants, businesses, community events, and incredible geography here. This is Utah County Life.
Hey, it's David Pastana with Rise Utah Realty, broker and owner. Today I'm with Brandon Fugal, who's the chairman of Colliers International here.
Hey, David.
Nice to have you.
It's good to be with you. Good to be with everyone today.
Brandon has a long and impressive resume. I believe for the last 16 years he's been the #1 agent in Utah, if not, maybe you could correct me, United States, pretty close.
Yeah, well, when we were with Coldwell Banker Commercial, I had the privilege of being ranked #1 agent for many of those years globally for the brand and for the entire global platform. And we've had the great fortune of leading the Utah market in the Wasatch Front and are currently involved with a lot of projects. I started my career over 28 years ago, focusing exclusively on the sale and lease of office properties, office parks, and that has expanded a bit to take in large mixed-use projects and other projects that are literally changing the skyline of our communities here along the Wasatch Front and creating really what many refer to as Silicon Slopes. So it's a lot of fun, and it's a pleasure to join you today.
Well, what's impressive, it's hard to be #1 for a year, but to do it for, honestly, as many years as you have.
Oh, you're only as good as your next deal. So in real
I know
estate,
that all too well.
in real estate, especially if you're in any type of professional sales, you're perpetually unemployed.
Yes.
You're always looking for your next project, your next client or deal, and commercial real estate is no different. And even with the economy being so dynamic and being blessed with so much good fortune and economic development activity, we're always working to come up with new methods of marketing our properties, positioning our projects, and really, I think, fueling growth along the Wasatch Front and participating in that.
I think that kind of leads us into our discussion today, because I think one of your secrets that's made you so great is the market intelligence that you've been able to gather to really understand the market, the people, the players, what's going on, which has been pretty incredible. So obviously I do residential, you do commercial, but it's all real estate.
Yeah, we're all related, and our fates are intertwined. Even though the residential and commercial markets require completely different approaches and are different disciplines, there really is a symbiotic relationship that exists between both communities, and you can usually track market trends based on where the residential market is tracking and where the commercial market is really driving, because the commercial activity is in large part in response to population growth, business creation, which also has an impact on the residential market.
So what are your clients asking you right now as far as, do they have any doubts at this point whether they should continue to invest in the Utah market?
Well, it's funny, it's no secret that we all stand in the middle of the longest economic expansion period on record. And
correct, yeah.
I think that makes people both nervous for good reason and also excited. one thing that I've noticed compared to other cycles that I've lived through in the past, I mean, when I started my career in 1991, we were just coming out of the S&L crisis and a recessionary period. And then, following that cycle, we saw the dot-com bubble burst.
2001.
Yes, and the telecoms correct, and it sent shockwaves through various industries. And then, of course, we all lived through the Great Recession, the banking crisis, and today we're in the midst of this great era of economic expansion. And I think many people are trying to calibrate to where the market is going to be headed in this next cycle and what to watch for. Right now, Utah is uniquely positioned in that we really haven't participated in the wild upswings, when markets have been red hot, and we also, conversely, haven't participated in the wild downswings. During the Great Recession, we really didn't have the number of distressed assets that you might think in the Utah market. In fact, we were entertaining investors on a regular basis who were flying into Utah, looking at Utah as a potential target for acquisition, and most of them ended up leaving very disappointed because there were very few distressed assets, and those assets that were distressed were for a reason. I don't know that it was really because of the recession. It was really attributed to other factors. And so we're really fortunate, and as we're entering this new era and looking into 2020, the year 2020 ahead of us, all of the fundamentals seem to be solid. There does not seem to be a large degree of speculation in the market, and vacancy continues to be running in the single digits, which is healthy, and we continue to see positive absorption amongst all classes: office, industrial, retail, and robust investment activity. So I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic and positive, although we should always be cautious and temper our optimism with at least some degree of prudent caution as we're looking at the next wave of activity.
Well, we see some of that in residential. The speculation is much lower. The idea that the last recession was really caused by bad loans, subprime, people that really didn't deserve stated income.
Right.
And those things have fundamentally changed, where everybody's full documentation, pretty good credit scores overall. Right. So people who are buying houses legitimately earn them, instead of having a huge speculative market that's based on fraudulent lending.
Right.
So for some of those reasons, I see whatever future slowdown we may have, it's definitely going to be much milder.
Yeah, you really do not see either the speculation or the underwriting risk that really existed in past cycles. What you do see is a dynamic economy that is driven by both hyper-growth companies that are venture-backed and larger, Fortune 500 type companies that are identifying Utah as a major market to expand and grow in. And so long as you see that delicate balance of growth and activity, spread amongst many sectors, so it's not really dependent upon any one sector or one factor, I think that we have cause to be very upbeat and positive. One thing about Utah is the fact that it is the most diverse economy in the country. As much as we are very excited about our tech sector, our Silicon Slopes, our market is a major location for financial services, manufacturing, health and wellness. In fact, if you look at some of the biggest new headquarters built along the Wasatch Front in the last 24 months, it really hasn't been tech. It's been attributed to health and wellness. And you look at employment, our major employers right now include Goldman Sachs, who is really one of our largest tenants downtown with 3,000 employees and growing, and the Micron facility, which in the past has been referred to as the IM Flash facility there in Lehigh at the point of the mountain, that is one of the world's leading NAND flash memory chip manufacturing locations. And you look at those locations, those employment centers of gravity in this market, and they really, I think, speak to the diversity within our economy and the fact that our economy is poised for further growth.
Yeah, it definitely seems like that. I wasn't aware of all the diversity, because the Silicon Slopes get so much more attention.
Yeah, for good reason. It's sexy. Yeah, I mean, to see the likes of Domo, Observe Point, Adobe, Oracle, Microsoft, eBay, Pluralsight, and others.
Facebook coming out here.
Yeah, I mean, there is tremendous growth and a lot of exciting activity and attention on Utah and our tech sector. But it's also important to note that, I mean, you have doTERRA, who just completed almost 1 million square foot campus in Pleasant Grove in North Utah
I've
County.
seen that. That's huge.
You have Young Living Essential Oils in Lehigh, who just completed a major headquarters campus, and I think is poised for further growth and development. And you combine all of those companies along with the financial services, manufacturing, and others that are contributing to our economy, and it really bodes well for Utah versus other competing markets across the country.
Well, there's this stat that I keep hearing from the government, their economists, that say that Utah is on a growth path that over the next 20 years we would double our population. And I keep thinking that, okay, a little over 1 million people into Salt Lake Valley, how are you going to put 2.4 million people here? Where are you going to put, we're at 600,000 in Utah County, we're going to go to basically the size of Salt Lake in that time. And so I guess for a question for you, what's driving that? Is it the business that drives it, or is it the lifestyle that attracts people and then business naturally grow from that? Is it the cart or the horse, or what's coming first?
Yes, all of the above. It isn't really attributed to one particular factor. It's really driven by a host of things that are working together. I mean, right now in Utah, we are witnessing the greatest renaissance of development.
What do you mean by renaissance?
New development, creativity. We see thinking, thought leadership, collaboration occurring on an unprecedented level. And you also see new construction fueling so much of this growth and providing the facilities for not only people to work, but also where they're going to be shopping in the future, living, you name it. Right now, presently, as we move into the end of 2019, there is over 4.1 million square feet under construction along the Wasatch Front. 4.1 million square feet.
That's a lot.
It is. And it's a record amount of new office construction. That may be cause for concern if it wasn't for the fact that 75% of that is already absorbed, is already committed to by
sold
companies.
Out almost.
So we roughly have 1 million square feet that is under construction, available, and based on projections should be absorbed over the course of the next 6 to 12 months. You couple that with the fact that we continue to maintain single-digit vacancies, even with rates rising to try to keep pace with the cost of construction, and it's giving us reason to be excited about our future. My concerns really center on rising construction costs. With construction costs rising, can we continue to underwrite these projects wisely? I worry about residential lot pricing, even though that isn't my area of focus. That's yours, but I'm seeing higher prices per lot pricing than ever before in the residential segment, and I think, is that what you're observing as well?
Well, what we have is a shortage of labor to build enough homes to accommodate this growth, and coupled with a blessing and a kind of a curse is the airport construction.
Sure.
They've taken so much of the labor force, electricians and all sorts of helpers that would typically be working on a home site,
Right.
and have caused a lot of builders to have to pay more for home or for this labor. Thus, it's going to all roll into the home eventually. So they're not building them fast enough, and they have to charge more because now they're paying higher labor costs, and part of it's that supplies that they have to get. So it all it's all put a crimp on the housing, and thus we've seen somewhere between 8 to 12% growth in our market for 6 straight years.
Wow.
Which for residential is unheard of in Utah.
That's stunning. And 2.8% unemployment last month.
Yeah,
I mean, you see unemployment hovering right around 3%, plus or minus, and you add into that equation that which you just mentioned, the airport. We have this $4 or $5 billion. I mean, who knows what the total cost will be when the airport is completed this coming year, but a massive multi-billion-dollar project. Expanding our international airport. You have an unprecedented number of projects with the Utah Department of Transportation. In fact, I believe there is over 160 projects that have been approved. And you have the new prison that is just starting construction, which, according to most recent estimates, will cost around $800 million. So between the public projects, you have incredible demand for labor in a market that is scarce, is labor scarce. And then you look into the private sector at, again, over 4 million square feet of new office construction, housing, some of the fastest growing companies in the state. And it's creating this perfect storm of driving prices up and creating some market dynamics that I think give us some cause for concern, but it has not created enough concern to really result in a correction or any type of slowdown.
Right, yeah, no, it hasn't. I mean, if there was a correction, I don't think it's going to start in Utah.
No,
it's going to be somewhere else with something.
Well, the coastal markets are much more volatile.
Yeah.
You look at the east and the west coast. The first tier markets have a lot more volatility, and they usually lead either an uptick or a downturn. And I think we're watching those markets closely to see what happens.
And I moved here 11 years ago from Southern California. It was basically an epicenter of the loan crisis that started.
Right.
And I came here and I'm like, hey, it's not that bad here.
Oh.
Because in spite of all that, you do have a lot of Californians migrate to Utah because of the favorable housing situation where they can basically almost buy the house of their dreams for cash because of what they owned in California. And they usually are here because their children are working here, have gone to local universities, and chose not to leave.
Right.
So that's a big trend, is that as a state we've done, I don't know if I can include myself, but they've done something good where people have the ability, they have a life here where they can create a job, they have a job, they can have a nice lifestyle.
Right.
And then obviously they have kids, and it perpetuates from there. And then eventually grandma and grandpa come from out of state to be with them.
Well, one of Utah's greatest strengths is the fact that it's a college town.
Yes.
In Utah County, we have Brigham Young University and the largest institution in the state, which is Utah Valley University, with over 40,000 students. Here in Salt Lake Valley, you have the University of Utah, Westminster, Salt Lake Community College. Up to the north, you have Utah State University and the famed Space Dynamics Lab. I mean, we really are a college town, and the amount of technology transfer and innovation that is coming out of our institutional base is something that I think often gets overlooked, but is a key driver for growth, and it's hard to quantify at times. I think that's something that we can continue to watch with great interest.
Yeah, you're right. Because most of those guys who start I think predominantly I think of tech companies. Guy who was in college quits to to continue his tech company.
Sure. Well, you look at Qualtrics, one of the greatest examples and success stories in Utah history, if not the greatest example in Utah
weren't they
tech
just
history.
sold for is it the highest price in history?
Yeah, so they were just recently acquired by SAP, global software giant SAP, for $8 billion. And this is a company that was really incubated and launched out of Provo, out of BYU. Professor Smith and his sons, Ryan, Jared, their team, really, I think, created something special, and it speaks to how unique our entrepreneurial environment really is. I mean, the pioneer spirit that really established Utah in the first place back in the 1800s, when Brigham Young, drove the Mormon settlers to build communities. I mean, that same pioneer spirit that created the crossroads of the West, I think, is alive and well today in our tech sector and others, as they're really kind of, I think, reshaping the landscape. And Qualtrics is one of those great examples of technology transfer, or at least new innovations spawned from our youngest, most talented students within our university system.
Well, I know I can speak for that, just seeing other people's response to their success and just getting blown away and saying everybody wants to go into the tech industry now.
It's inspiring. It's inspiring.
It is.
And you know what? The beautiful thing about Utah is everyone believes that they have a shot. I think everyone has a dream that they can contribute, whether they're an innovator, a thought leader, inventor, you name it. It's a special place that I think fosters growth and success and innovation like no other on the planet. I mean, it's no coincidence that you have the largest concentration of network marketing companies, that have global sales distribution channels based here in Utah. And it's really due to that spirit, and also the fact that we have more multilingual talent here, concentrated along the Wasatch Front than ever. I think that's one of the reasons why you see Goldman Sachs, Fidelity Investments, American Express, Morgan Stanley, Discover, and others really establishing and expanding major operations in this market. I mean, where else can you go in the country and recruit that kind of talent that is young, educated, industrious, has a great work ethic, and I think the demographic with the low crime rate and the emphasis on family sets Utah apart from many places across the country, and it's something that we probably don't tout enough.
I think people are recognizing it, though. I mean, they come here and they experience a fairly wholesome area,
Sure.
Great mountains, all the skiing and mountain biking you want to do, and I fell in love with this area myself, having grown up in Southern California and coming here.
Well, where else in the country can you fly into an international airport and within 20 minutes be standing in any number of world-class resort destinations?
It doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen. You fly to Denver, and I don't know about your experience. I fly to Denver, and every time I land there, I wonder where the hell are the mountains and
They're far away.
where is the business center? We're very fortunate to have a major international airport that is now completing its expansion, that offers proximity to quality of life benefits, to our entire workforce and population, and then you add to that the fact that mass transit has been playing a key role in our expansion. I mean, we have high-speed light rail, which we call TRAX, and then we have our commuter rail system that spans the entire Wasatch Front, known as Front Runner. And I think that emphasis on mass transit and combining that with all of our other infrastructure that continues to grow really positions us well. I think the dark side of that is the constant construction. I joke all the time that we should be changing the state symbol from the beehive to the orange construction cone or barrel.
Yeah.
if you will, because we are plagued by constant road construction in order to keep pace with the growth that we're experiencing in these communities. And it's a two-edged sword.
Well, okay, so let's assume that this projections actually come to pass, that we really do double in 20 years. What do you think needs to happen from a state's perspective, and just how would that, what would this, I'm looking out here at your view, what would this look like to you?
Wow. Well,
That's a pretty grandiose idea.
absolutely.
But
Well, without question, we are going to see our skyline transformed. It's inevitable. With that population growth, with that kind of momentum, the skyline across the Wasatch Front is going to continue to grow. I predict also that that growth will be centered in the suburban market. Over 80% of our growth and absorption over the last decade has been in our suburban market. It's been out in our communities. And, you know,
well, just to clarify that, what are those areas? Are we talking about the Salt Lake Valley,
yeah, so
Utah Valleys?
good question. So traditionally, in major markets across the country, your business growth is usually centered in a central business district, or the CBD. Although the Salt Lake CBD is vibrant and healthy and boasting new skyscrapers like the one we're sitting in here, where we're on the 22nd floor of 111 Main with our Colliers International office, and we have another tower under construction just one block away. It's important to note that the majority of the growth, 80% of it, give or take, is really out South Valley. It's out in the midst of the suburbs, and it's really centered between South Salt Lake County and North Utah County, and that is really the heart of what people refer to as Silicon Slopes. And you know, when people ask, well, what is driving that? Why are you seeing 80% of the absorption in the new construction activity really centered in a relatively small area? I mean, 12-mile area, and it's really attributed to the fact that it's about recruitment retention. In a market with 3% unemployment, give or take, companies are trying to position themselves for better recruitment and retention as they grow. And the ability to draw from both the Salt Lake County and the Utah County demographic is key to succeeding with those growth initiatives. We're going to see growth in Davis-Weber County as well, to the north of Salt Lake City. The only problem with Davis-Weber County up until now is they have not seen the amount of business creation or entrepreneurial activity that we've seen down in Utah County. And there are a number of reasons that I could point to for that. Most notably, I think BYU and UVU spawn a lot of entrepreneurs.
So just the sheer size of the universities,
yeah,
they're going to be pumping out more entrepreneurs.
Sure. And it's a younger demographic.
I guess we could argue whether they're more talented or not. But.
Yeah, I think perseverance and I think drive is to a large degree
definitely
kind of the force.
Well, so yeah, I agree. Skyline's going to change. You see more approvals now for mid-rise buildings in areas where it was typically just two-story, and that's going to change a lot.
Well, and you see mixed use.
Yeah.
You see master plan projects that are combining in true form live, work, play, where they have high density residential components matched with Class A office, matched with retail service amenities.
Right.
I mean, Station Park in Farmington in Davis County is a good example of that. I mean, we are fortunate to work on the master planning of that project, which is over 1 million square feet. You have the combination of lifestyle retail with 300,000 square feet of Class A office, and right across the street, living space, and you happen to be right at the center of a mass transit hub. You're at the convergence of I-15, Highway 89, Legacy Highway, and Front Runner in one location. You're going to continue to see transit-oriented development drive a lot of the growth along the Wasatch Front if properly master planned. Utah County's Vineyard project, or we have a couple, the Forge at Geneva, the former Geneva Steel property, which is arguably one of the largest infill sites in the United States that has undergone development or redevelopment over the course of the last decade, is one good example of mixed use, where you have thousands of residential units under construction being completed, coupled with everything from a new megaplex, I think it's a 20-screen megaplex theater, and restaurant services, and really new office development that will be poised to break ground in the months ahead.
Graduate campus right there that they're
exactly. Well, precisely, Utah Valley University chose that site strategically because of its access to the entire market, its centralized access to front runner, to really mass transit, and it was a brilliant move to acquire 230 acres in the heart of that project, not just for the next few years, but for decades to come. We're really seeing legacy developments created that I think will fuel a lot of the growth into the future and provide opportunities for generations.
Yeah, that area down there, the Water's Edge community has been the hottest
Yeah.
residential side in Utah County for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
It
I
is.
have to pinch myself some days, but I wake up scared to death every morning as well, because as long as buildings stand vacant, or we have vacancy that needs to be absorbed, or inventory that needs to be moved, it's an unsettling feeling. And I think that's one thing that has kept my fire in the belly alive over the course of the last 27, 28 years, is really always conditioning myself to never take for granted the growth, the activity, the prosperity that we've seen here along the Wasatch Front, because as fast as that has seemingly come, it can be taken away. And I think it's important that we all stay very, very mindful and watch the indicators, and not get too far ahead of ourselves. I think tempering that optimism with prudence, I think, will serve not only our entrepreneurial community well, but also our state leadership as we go into the future. We've been very fortunate to have unmatched public-private engagement. A lot of people that fly into Utah ask me, well, what makes Utah so special? Why is Utah ranked consistently at the top of all of the charts, whether it be Business Week or Forbes or Fortune, U.S. News World Report? And there are a dozen different things that you can point to, but really I think one of the things that I've been most proud to watch over the years is that public-private engagement, where you have a governor, a state legislature, and local municipal leadership that joins with the business community and sees them as partners. And I think the business community and the development community sees the governor's office as a partner in really, I think, forging new approaches to economic development. And I hope to see that continue into the future. I'm a big fan of Governor Herbert. I think Governor Gary Herbert has set a tone that the rest of the nation has watched and learned from over the course of the last decade. And he was fortunate in that he had a very wise predecessor in John Huntsman Jr. that was part of setting the stage. But Governor Herbert has really done an incredible job presiding over this era of economic expansion that will go down in the history books.
Do you think the fact that he had a real estate background helped?
Indeed. I love that he gets small business. We have a governor who actually knows what it feels like to be, opening a business on Main Street, and really having to go out and eat what you kill, if you wish, or if you will. It's refreshing to have leadership here in Utah that understands the business community and understands that it's important to continue to incentivize people. I mean, socialism doesn't work. I mean, free market capitalism is the key driver of our great nation. And I would hope that this next generation, that the millennials, will help carry that torch forward and help us strengthen that.
You mentioned you're looking at some key stats, indicators. What are those key stats that you like to pay attention to?
You know, in our market, it's vacancy, lease rates, absorption, cap rates. You know, vacancy has continued to remain in the single digits in spite of new construction at a record pace. We're still seeing, I mean, the Class A market, I mean, we're seeing 5% vacancy, which is virtually non-existent when you take into account that will hopefully be absorbed over the course of the months ahead. Lease rates rising and keeping pace with the cost of construction really denote a healthy market. And as long as our rates remain competitive versus the rest of the country, which they are, I think we can continue to participate in this growth on a national level. Absorption is simply the statistic that tracks, you know, how much space is being taken down, net positive. You know, as companies move out of space, is their space not only being backfilled, but is that resulting in net positive absorption? And you know, we're projecting well over 1 million square feet of positive absorption right now, year to date, and that will continue. And then you look at cap rates, you know, the investment rates and what investors can expect. And Utah is a bargain. You look at Utah versus the rest of the country, you can come into Utah and buy an income producing asset, an institutional grade asset at a 7% cap rate, give or take, that in other markets, in first tier markets on the east and west coast, would be commanding 4 or 5% cap rates. I think it really does speak to how competitive Utah has continued to be in really providing opportunity for investors and for those who are looking to our market as a safe haven. And I think that, you know, heaven willing, we'll continue to see that trend play out. I don't want to minimize the fact that we also have a world headquarters of a global religion here. I mean, right outside of our window, we have the headquarters of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I have to credit the LDS Church and their investment in the community as a major economic driver. During the Great Recession, if it wasn't for the LDS Church building on a speculative basis out of cash with not one penny of tax incentive, what has become the multi-block City Creek development, which, I mean, we're talking billions of dollars of investment. I mean, it's scary to think of where our downtown would be without their leadership and their role. And I don't care what religious persuasion you are, the LDS Church continues to I think contribute to this market in a unique way that is perhaps the X factor along the Wasatch Front that often gets overlooked, and I think is something that we should look to as a positive and be proud of. So a lot of things to point to in this great renaissance that we're experiencing.
Well, that's what's exciting to me is that it's so diverse. I had a client actually just recently ask me, like, where, you know, what basically what he was asking, is there any one business that if it went out of business would make this area like go down? And I couldn't think of, you know, anything. I'm like, well, there's so businesses diverse everywhere, and I can't say that. It's not like you live right next to Walmart or Microsoft and everybody works there.
Right.
Everybody does everything.
That's the benefit of being the most diverse economy in the United States. We are not dependent upon any one sector or business. You know,
we're not just a travel state to go ski at.
We're not.
We got everything.
Yeah, you look at Hawaii. Hawaii, beautiful state. I mean, we have a couple of projects there that we're involved in, but Hawaii it's no secret, it is driven by tourism. Utah, although we have a very robust, healthy tourism focus here, and tourism is a very good contributor to our economy. It's just one of many. We have a building film industry. I mean, we have the Park City Film Studios and a lot of movies, motion pictures, television shows that are being filmed right here in our backyard. Why? Talent, access to talent. It's cost effective. We have some of the most scenic backdrops on the planet. Forget the United States, on planet Earth, that exist here in Utah that can be taken advantage of. And all of that really helps fuel our economy. And I think there's a creative element here. There's a creative component to our demographic that gets overlooked sometimes, but is manifest in the fact that I think we have the second largest Comic-Con, which is now called FanX. But we just, 2 weekends ago, had over 100,000 people converge on the Salt Palace Convention Center for FanX, or Salt Lake Comic-Con.
Yeah.
But FanX has become a cultural event that brings together celebrity, commerce, creativity, unlike anything else. And it's an exciting time to see so much diversity contributing to our communities, to our market. And I think people, even though we are predominantly Latter-day Saint driven demographic, I think people also would be surprised to hear that we have a very vibrant, very active, diverse demographic that is embracing all cultures. Our Pride Day in Salt Lake City, from what I've heard, is one of the largest in the country. In fact, I don't want to misquote, but it seems like I heard a statistic that it was the second largest Pride Day outside of San Francisco. And I think that's indicative of where our state is moving as far as being more inclusive and diverse. And I think with that diversity comes great opportunity.
Well, I think it becomes a place where you don't have to be a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You can enjoy this place for who you are,
right,
and for what you believe, and it's a great place to live and to feel included, not to feel excluded.
Indeed. No, there's a lot to be proud of, a lot of exciting things that lie in store for those of us here in Utah and for the next generation. So real estate is the backbone of that. I mean, the thing I love about real estate is I do not know, I cannot identify another career path that gives one a more tangible manifestation of their labors. To be able to participate in building communities, in changing the skylines of the communities we serve, and helping people with, in your case, you're helping people with the single largest purchase they make in their lives. And I've had the privilege of working with entrepreneurs and business leaders to create places where they can work and prosper and grow and benefit the communities in ways that I think are hard to quantify. And I think real estate is at the center of all of that. And if you're in business, you have to have a real estate strategy. I don't care whether you are a one-man show working out of the basement of your house, or whether you're growing into a company that will ultimately employ hundreds or thousands. It is critical to have a real estate strategy guiding your growth and helping you to be able to, I think, properly establish the roadmap for success. And I applaud your efforts with your show, with this podcast, if you will. Is this a podcast, or is it?
We do a little of everything with it.
So I think it's important that people realize that there are resources out there. There are trusted advisors that can help them, that can guide them to make the right decisions along their path. And I think that's a great privilege, to have a seat at the table, to be a trusted advisor to people, to help improve their lives, to help improve their bottom line, create wealth, save money, and position them for the future is a great privilege.
Yeah. I agree with that, and I can see the sincerity when you say that, how you feel about it. And you have changed Utah in all the projects that you've been a part of. I'm sure, to be able to drive down 15 freeway and for it to have you point out all the different things that you've been a part of, it's pretty spectacular.
It's humbling, and it's really gratifying to play a role in that growth and development, and to have the privilege of being involved with so many incredible leaders, community leaders, business leaders, and really seeing their dreams become a reality, and seeing that brick and mortar as a representation of those dreams and that growth is exciting. And I think we're just getting warmed up.
Well, and really I should have said it earlier when you asked me about this podcast that we do, is really, it's just a forum to educate people on the questions that everyone has and needs answers to. But I after talking with you, I feel more excited than ever.
Oh, there's a lot to be
to go do something in real estate, to have a not just as a realtor, but as an individual wanting to invest in this area and the growth potential. It's kind of like a tide, if this area is just going to go up, I don't want to say it's hard to go wrong, but in many ways it's a good or a great investment.
Right. It's not a matter of whether we will continue to succeed, it's how much success, hopefully, that we'll be able to participate in, and what do we need to do in the community to help others succeed and realize their dreams. What can we do to help lift our communities and those people that are the next wave of entrepreneurs, the dreamers, the risk takers. I often say that if it wasn't for the dreamers or the risk takers, we'd all be out of a job right now. I mean, it takes great risk and perseverance to be able to succeed in today's market, even though our country remains the greatest country on the planet. This is such an incredible place. I think it's important that we not lose sight of our core principles and really what established our country in the first place. And really, speaking of Utah, that industrious spirit, that pioneering spirit that we see manifest today with our entrepreneurs, I think making sure that we're incentivizing them, encouraging them in the right direction will be key to our success.
Well, I think we should just end it there. It's been a great interview. Thank you, Brandon, for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
It's a privilege to come together.
Okay.
Hey, it's David here. Thank you again for watching this video. I really appreciate you supporting the content and your involvement. Please share it with your family and friends so we can keep giving you good stuff. And of course, as always, we are real estate brokers here in the state of Utah. We would love to help you. And we have a huge network outside if you need help there too to find you the best realtor. But give us a call or direct message us below. Thanks.